Pressing the microphone live now. So, guess what? I'm looking at this microphone, this camera, because it's there. It's not here. It's 4020 live. It is. See, I'll just talking normally.
1 minute you're clearing your throat. The next minute you're
this
into
is why I'm at the
Reginald
doctor's.
Bosencray.
That's why I'm at the doctor's on Wednesday about my throat. Yeah.
And I'm sitting next to him.
Yeah. Two
tell you
Richards.
what I've got.
Yeah. Phil Kaplan is here. I'm Richard Shorey, because we don't introduce ourselves. But people who download the podcast know who we are, because it says it in the description. You might not know who this gentleman is in the middle. Who are you?
I'm another Richard.
Well, I mean, we could have gone on many directions there, but we didn't, because we're professional. And hopefully, having got this streaming equipment from Toulouse Olympique yesterday, we should be okay today. He says, "What are you doing here?"
Well, I've just published Shannie Crowell's autobiography.
Because I don't know how do you... You're the publisher of the book.
Yeah. So
Editor.
Edited it. Shannie's the author. It's her autobiography, and I have published it, edited it, tidied it up, turned it into English, and there it is. It's fabulous. I'm so pleased with it. So,
but that's not the only thing he's done rugby league related. There's a long history in the sport.
Yeah, I think I've been started in about 2005. I've done about 20 years of writing now. League Express mainly, Rugby League World, and I think that's my fifth Rugby League book.
Rugby League World.
I did, yeah, for 3 years. Yeah, and yeah.
Since then, obviously, sales have plummeted. I'm joking.
I could say,
I'm joking.
You know the Media World small film. We'll get in trouble for everything.
Joking.
Yeah, but no, I don't do anything full time now. I just do projects when I like the look of them.
I mean, that's what I do pretty much.
Yeah. And when you say your fifth book, and obviously you talk about why Shannie, a lot of the books that you've done have been based around extensive interviews.
Yeah.
Which is something you used to do for the paper and the magazine.
Yeah.
And then sort of Wigan was turned into 750 greats or whatever it was. No, I'm joking. But we don't seem to have that outlet anymore, do we? There's the extended player interview, particularly of historic figures, is not something that we as a sport do enough of. We keep saying we want to celebrate our heritage, but both, was it Castleford and Warrington came out with their new badges and how they're going to relate it to the history of the club and how long they've been going. And we do pay lip service to it, and some clubs clearly do it very well. But we don't interview or I don't know, fate our star names.
Honestly, as a big Liverpool fan, the difference is unbelievable. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, as a kid growing up, I knew all about the Liverpool players of the 60s because you couldn't escape it. It was just always there.
Is this Liverpool City?
No, sadly not. No,
The
my
Liverpool
knowledge there isn't
not,
quite as
not
good.
Heighton.
This is the round ball sport.
Oh, right.
Not Dr. Kukash's Liverpool.
Yeah. But when you compare that to rugby league, I think clubs are doing better. I think the heritage numbers is good, and you know.
Heritage rounds in Australia are great.
Yeah, but no,
British
I love the history of the game, and so I was really keen to get ex-player interviews into League Express, and so it ran for about 4 or 5 years, and I did some absolute belters, and then ones I'd already done previously with League Express or Rugby League World. I realised I had enough for ex-Wigan players for a book. So when I interviewed Shannie for the first time, it was quite novel for me because by then I'd barely spoken to a current player for a few years, and I interviewed her and was just blown away, and I thought, well, I want to take this further. Got in touch with her again, do you fancy doing a book? And there is the book.
So she must have a story that is out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. And again, without spoiling it, because you want people to buy it. And we're hoping to have her on anyway to explain her side of things.
Yeah.
What was it that triggered you? Because obviously, so you've done all these interviews with people who've got stories to tell.
Yeah.
What was it about hers that you thought this is worthy of a wider audience?
Well, I think interviewing a great player is always a privilege, and to speak to someone who's won medals galore and caps galore is absolutely fantastic. But there comes a point where you've spoken to them all and you've heard it all. What I always want in an interview is something else, just something maybe in their life story that's different. And with Shannie, there was just so much there. And it was obvious that she was so willing to open up and talk about things. So there's an awful lot in this book on, for example, she's got ADHD. There's a chapter on ADHD and how it affects her life and how it's affected her rugby career. There's all sorts that she's willing to talk about in terms of, just constant battles with racism and homophobia and misogyny, being a woman playing what is still really sort of regarded by everybody as a man's sport. Battles with mental health, and she just said to me very early on that she'd talk about anything, she'd answer every question, and no subject would be off the table.
So it's not all just a chart of a rugby career.
No, there's plenty of amazing rugby stuff in there, but no, it's just a really astonishing life story. Someone who grew up in Toronto, lived there for 7 years, and then came to Widnes and had to settle into a town with little diversity and just being bullied for the colour of her skin, for example, at a very early age, and it's some really difficult reading in there, but it's a great story, and somebody who, the great thing about Shannie is just her personality, and it just comes across brilliantly in the book. She's got such a gregarious personality and outlook on life, and it comes across really well in the book. It's a really funny book at times, and at other times it's a really emotional book and tough to read in places. It just, for what I want from an autobiography, as someone who's read probably every rugby league autobiography there is, it just ticked every box, and it was just one that I really wanted to do right from the outset.
And heading away to Canada to play in the inaugural World Series.
That's
Again,
right.
It's going to be a massive boost for the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've got a few players. They've got the London Broncos fullback, haven't they? Lauren Muller. They've got Megan Pakulis, who played here last year for York. They've got Shannie. But I think they'll be up against it with Fiji, though, because they've got 6 or 7 NRLW regulars and another 6 or 7 sort of fringe players who have played a little bit over there. It's a bit strange that that's the semi-final, because I think they're the best 2 teams of the 4, but they've gone into the semi-final together, so I suspect the winners of that will then beat, I might be proven wrong, that's the beauty of sport, but you'd imagine that they're the best 2 of the 4, and that Nigeria and Ireland will probably...
Clearly incredibly proud of that Canadian part of her life.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's 3 countries that she could play for. She still... thinks of herself as Canadian. And there's a story in the book where she got sent a letter saying she was going to get deported, and she sort of realised that it was a mistake, and they managed to overturn it. But her initial reaction was, yes, I'm going to be sent home, because that's home to her still. And you know, when she was over here as a young child, she still wanted to go back to Canada. But her mum is English, her dad is Jamaican. Oh, so right. There's the 3 countries that she could play for. So what happened with her with England obviously was in that Woman of Steel documentary, and I think, you know, what happened, but to her within a couple of months she was like, right, well, Canada. And I think, I don't know, I get the impression that playing for Canada is probably more enjoyable. In fact, I now think I wish I'd asked her that and I could put it in. I've thought of about 5 things already. Yeah. Thought of about 5 things already that I could have asked her since it got printed. But do you remember those guys about when Wales and Ireland had that really good World Cup in 2000? A lot of their players just said it's much more enjoyable playing for Wales or Ireland than it is for Great Britain, which was basically the same as England, you know. And I just get that impression that she's already, in playing for Canada, she's already gone to play in Jamaica and Florida and Canada itself, and this will be the 4th tour to the, you know, to North America. Brilliant, in just 3 years. Whereas England are over here playing Wales and France every year, and I just think this is much more exciting and
sometimes
it's a great thing to do.
And Oldham and other non-Welsh and Irish places. So yeah, why are all these games being scheduled for the same time? Not the ones in Canada. That's different. That's a different country and a different competition. That I fully understand. But why are all these internationals, men's and women's, this autumn, all being played at the same time on the same day as the England-Australia Ashes test that we haven't had for 20 odd years that we're all hyping up? That's just
some of it is because you're trying to exploit different markets. So we've had this conversation about why are France playing Jamaica in a World Cup qualifier.
But that's in France, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
But I think what it's giving is this impression that we could have a 3 or 4 week international programme at the end of the respective domestic seasons, where wherever you are in the world, you can see international rugby league. And if we can get the standard of that rugby league raised slightly, it becomes a very saleable commercial product. So, and I think that's what particularly the NRL have seen, that they've got products domestically that they can get the most out of, and they're very nearly there. But there's international elements, particularly involving Pacific nations, which is why the Pacific Championships are on at the same time as some of the Ashes games, and they just want to be able to say to a broadcaster, you can have wall-to-wall time zone international rugby league.
France, that's fine. The NRL, that's fine. Pacific Championships, fine.
European Championships, fine.
Scotland versus Jamaica in Featherstone on the same day as England Australia.
It's partly because it's a warm-up game for something else. It's for Jamaica going to France,
and it has to be at the same day as England versus Australia.
They want it.
You're organising.
I think the logic is that they want to give them a week. So because they're playing France on a Saturday, they didn't really want to play on the Sunday, because they want to play, get over to France and start preparing. Right. They could have played Friday night. I don't know how easy it is for Jamaica to get their squad together on a Friday night, or if it's easier to do it on a Saturday, or Featherstone wasn't mind you, Featherstone you can buy for 20p at the moment by the sounds of it.
Got the LED board here.
So is it on the same day as the Wembley test, or will it be the others?
I think there are a set of internationals that all seem to be on the same day as every single.
Do we have a number for roughly what they've sold for Wembley?
I think we know that there is at least 45,000 sold, but I think the plan is that gets up to near 70.
Right.
And because rugby league fans tend to buy their tickets late, they think there's going to be a rush after this final series. Yeah. I think also today I heard an advert for the series on TalkSport.
Oh, that's good then.
But just really for the Wembley test, because it was very much Everton sold out, Headingley sold out. If you want a ticket, come to Wembley. And again, you're talking about an audience that is predominantly south of England audience that just might say, well, for what they're charging, I'll go with that.
The way they sold out the second and third test, I mean, that was phenomenal. Yeah. I really was impressed with that, and I think that's one of the best news stories of the year. But I mean, 45. So if they end up getting, say, 55 to 60, that would exceed some crowds at Wembley. I mean, it wouldn't be that bad.
No, it wouldn't be bad at all.
The opener of the '95 World Cup was about 40, and I think the final was only 50 something.
I would think that because there's quite a few rugby league people also getting imbued with the final series in Australia at the moment. There'll be a lot of people, because this is 22 years since we've had the last series, that people will want to see the likes of Nathan Cleary on their back door. It's fine in a World Cup, but this is a weekly narrative.
Yeah.
So I think they might get over 60.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised. But what the ticket sales do say is how ridiculous it was to scrap the Ashes in the first place. But also, no one ever really talked about it that much. I mean, I'm sure, it wasn't a big thing, they scrapped the Ashes. It just suddenly... The Tri-Nations came along, and that was pretty good when it was just the three, and it was competitive. But then it just never came back, and no
and again,
one
part
really
of
seemed
that was to do with the identity of Great Britain.
Yeah,
which also seemed to go.
Yeah.
If we'd have said for 3 years it's going to be Tri-Nations,
Yeah.
England, Wales, Scotland might be in when it's over here,
Yeah.
Pacific Nation when it's over there. But every World Cup, we're going to have, every 2 years out from a World Cup, we're going to have an Ashes series, and it's going to be Great Britain.
Yeah.
But we never said that,
No.
and
Jet
we didn't know
Cleary.
when we were having our World Cup. So
And Jet Cleary's off to play for Ukraine. And Nathan might do one day.
Nathan wants to, but I don't think he ever will.
I mean, but
But Jet's playing, yeah.
speaking of Canada, and I know we've got no resource, so this is a impossible thing to do. But some of my wife's pen pals are in Canada, and they were banging on about on Facebook over the weekend, because I'm friends with them now, about there was some other game involving Canada's women playing rugby. I don't know what it was, and they were like, "This is the first time they've seen it," and they don't. I was trying to explain. Well, I didn't try to explain because they said to me, "Oh, I'm watching the rugby today." And there's no point me getting into a philosophical discussion.
No.
Because that's not the
Do you
point.
want to count the number of players?
Yeah.
No, don't go.
So I said, enjoy the rugby. The Canadian women, they're playing a different rugby later. But we need to, we can kind of capitalise on it. I don't know how we do it.
I don't know for certain. And this is clearly not a programme that is ever going
Is that cheeky?
No?
Oh, yeah. Stick it there.
to break exclusives, because we don't do that.
Oh, I've got some scoops for you.
But
I've come armed with them.
I think you may.
Never mind.
I think you may well find that this World Series in Canada is going to be on a Canadian broadcast.
Oh, excellent. Well, I shall tell my Canadian friends. Well, not my
And
Canadian
a
friends.
broadcaster broadcaster that they will have heard of.
Oh, well, that's even better.
I asked Shannie if some of the rugby union players might go over, but no, it doesn't seem likely. I think at a lower level they can maybe attract some. But I had no idea they were that strong in the women's game in rugby union.
It's odd, isn't it? It's really odd. Only three nations have won that World Cup: England, New Zealand, and the USA.
Right.
Which is very odd.
Right.
I guess in North America, they don't have a physical women's sport because there isn't women's American football or whatever, in the sense that But and of course, as we know now, everyone's going to the NRLW anyway. All the Australians and New Zealanders, they'll be in there.
Well, the next thing would be the England fullback,
Ellie Kildone,
who comes from
Keith.
this neck of the woods. If she was snapped up by the NRLW, there'd be a dial shift then. It's almost like John Gallagher signing for Leeds.
Her autobiography is going to be the world's best rugby player? Question mark.
There was no question. At the time he signed, he was the world's best.
Oh dear.
But the amount of media interest that created, and we've spoken about this before, we've written about it, was almost unprecedented. I don't remember walking down St Michael's Lane and seeing media trucks the whole length from all different countries, and that was just because John Gallagher had
Why did he fail so badly? Was it he got an early injury?
He did,
Did he get a
but
spear tackle
I
or
think
something?
it's partly to do with he was rushed into the team in the
Right.
wrong position. So when Jonathan Davis signed, he got a little bit of experience on the wing first to ease him into the game. Gallagher was straight at fullback.
Right.
And at one point,
Okay.
Leeds played the Australian tourists, I think a week or 2 weeks before the first test, and Gallagher had probably his best ever game for Leeds.
It was a competitive game, wasn't
and
it?
they were talking
Yeah.
about, is he going to be the outside bet to be in the Great Britain? But from there he got dumped on his shoulder at St Helens, spear tackled, and then it sort of went downhill from there.
Yeah,
Don't mention Leeds playing St Helens.
Not yet. We're going to leave, and we've already got messages about it, but I think we should leave them leave them to
I can't
stew.
imagine what there is to talk about.
No.
Dull game.
Even though I've moved the laptop here so I can read it, I still can't read people's names. Mind you, it's because it's one of those things that's just letters. J. Walty. I can read your name now. Has a bridging loan arrived at Salford yet?
No,
Come on.
nor Featherstone.
Come on. Sheffield Wednesday as well. Also, what does Bradford's loss to Toulouse mean for their potential IMG points and plus for the Super League? Well, if they're in 13 for 14th, according to the independent panel.
The really interesting thing about this is who is going to finish 12th. And what we don't know, because we're not party to where everybody is at the moment, is whether the 0.25 that you get for winning the final, which now can only go to York or Toulouse, is going to nudge Bradford out of 12th. I suspect it probably won't. And that Bradford, I think, are confident that they will be the 12th ranked team and in. But it again, and not apart from the fact it'd be a great game, it'd be interesting to see if that weighting does make any difference.
So how certain are we? Sorry, you're the guy that asked it.
That's okay. Yeah, no,
the reason
it doesn't work. You've obviously not watched it.
Okay, I've watched.
Like,
This is
I'm
not
a regular
top 10
fan.
on
Okay.
the BBC.
This is if you think of something, jump in.
Your reason for asking questions is you're the interviewer. Mine is that I've really sort of lost touch to an extent with the men's game. Don't follow things as closely as I used to. So how certain are we on 12 teams or 14 teams for next year? So it's
the thing with that is,
if they rolled back now,
if they went back to 12,
Yeah.
then the one thing they would have to institute would be loop fixtures.
Right.
Because they're almost certain that they have to have 13 home fixtures.
Okay. Right.
So because of all of the rhetoric that we got about loop fixtures were the devil, I don't even think Max Clifford in his heyday would have been able to sell that. Can we mention that?
No, probably not. Probably not. No,
Edit that bit out.
But
do you know what
could
I
have
mean?
been worse.
Eric Hall in his heyday couldn't have made a case
Yeah.
for going back to loop fixtures. So I think we've got 14.
Right.
Whether it's been rushed through, whether we've got 14, that's immaterial. I think the process is there.
Yeah. Okay.
The insurance was, if there aren't, we might have to go back. I don't think there's any doubt we're going to 14.
And there was that issue with people talking about Sky maybe not being
Sky
particularly on board.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Okay.
Sky don't determine any competition that they cover in
Right.
terms of the number of teams in it. They don't turn around to the EFL and go, could you have 74 teams in League One?
Fair enough. Yeah.
But they have been informed.
Yeah.
So the high executives at Sky,
Right.
they have had meetings with.
Okay.
The talent on the ground, and definitely they are talent. Mr. Carney, for example, were not informed.
The shocked Brian Carney.
So shocked as in, we're having 14 teams, nobody's told me. So, Sky are on board. There is an issue about, at the moment, their agreement, which goes into its current year, films every game. We're now going to add an extra game. Who pays for that?
Yeah. Okay.
But it could be that extra game goes on our league and becomes a cash generator for the RFL rather than Sky.
Right.
So,
So historically, I've always been in favour of more teams rather than fewer. And I think when you look back at 95, 96 and the mistakes that were made, I think one of the big mistakes was dropping from 16 to 12, especially when you went from 16 teams from the north of England down to essentially 10, because London barely had any English players and obviously Paris didn't. But the argument now then is there just isn't the quality. So where are the players going to come from?
I think that's the problem. Because at the same time as we've done that, we've increased the quota ruling to 10.
Yeah. Because that was 3 back in the
Well,
90s,
and I think the indication is that for teams that are struggling to find the relevant number of juniors, or when the part-time players from the Championship who you can get hold of, that you've reached that small area, because some people prefer to be part-time and play in the Championship, even though they might be good enough to play in Super League. Then you're going to have to supplement that with overseas players. But again, we're fishing in a pool that is below even where we used to fish for overseas players. So we're now in the lower reaches of the New South Wales and Queensland.
So you mean all those people in the Queensland Cup Grand Final I promoted the other day, that they might not be coming to Super?
I would think Burley Bears, they're all on audition to come over here and be playing in Super.
Someone told me of an under-20s player last year in Australia where all the players would just say, well, if we don't get in the NRL, we'll just go to Super League. And that's quite depressing to hear, isn't it?
But I think that's the bed you make, in the hope that you're going to increase the player pool. This is why I think your expansion is right, but expansion can't just be going back to where you've always been.
Yeah.
True expansion and growth, which is the word they use a lot, we have to go and do Wales properly. With North Wales have put in a toehold, but how are we going to crack the Welsh market, which at the moment rugby union are really suffering? Is there any potential in Ireland? And it's not for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's like, can we find some investors? Could we get some NRL players of Irish heritage who would want to come and, like Shannie playing for Canada? It would mean a lot to them, and maybe they feel at that point in their career that they want to put something. What does expansion look like? If you ask that question first and then you expand, I think it's probably a better strategy than expanding and going, what have we actually won?
Yeah, but the point that I'm kind of thinking of, though, even though I don't know enough about the current game today, is that back in the mid-90s we had 16 teams in the top division with only 3 overseas players per team, and I thought the standard was good. Standard was good at the bottom. We beat...
There were some years where teams at the bottom were...
But we were in an era then where we generally won one of the 3 Ashes tests. Wigan at that point were World Club champions.
Yeah, but the dynamics of going full-time were just kicking in there.
Yeah.
And obviously Wigan got it before anybody else and got the wherewithal. But even in Australia, they weren't full-time. And I think the acceleration away from us...
Yeah, no, fair enough. But there's
particularly
been
with the Pacific players that they've been able to call on.
Yeah, that made a huge difference.
We don't have... No, that was rugby union for us.
Yeah.
So when they went professional and we didn't get access to a load of rugby union, but all of those 16 teams will have also had really good rugby union players in.
Yeah, but there's just been a massive slump of English players playing top flight rugby league in this country, and where have the players gone? And like I've watched the Championship regularly, and the Cumbrian teams, and often seen players who I think could have played Super League. I think one of the big failings over the last 30 years is a lack of players moving up from the Championship to the Super League.
But that's a really interesting point about Cumbria, which you all know better than us, that I'm told that one of the reasons a lot of Cumbrian players now don't want to play in Super League is because they've got really well paid jobs at BNFL.
Yeah.
And they're the major...
That's always been
There's
an issue,
a big government initiative coming to build submarines in Barrow.
Yeah.
And they're needing workforce apparently, the population of Barrow isn't enough to fill all the jobs that are going to come, so they're going to be looking to entice people in. That's where rugby league needs to have I don't know what the answer is in Cumbria, whether they'll ever be enough to be a Super League force, but you could look at an area like Barrow and include it in moving up to the Cumbria and saying rugby league needs to be your sporting choice, the number one. So if you're coming in the area, we want you either as a player, a support, we want your kids down the local junior teams, and invest in that as your growth, rather than just say, the clubs as they currently exist, you can apply if you want to.
Yeah.
I've got 3 or 4 different branches in my brain of where this programme's going to go after this, and I can't work out which one to go with. Because we're going to delay the Leeds Saints and the Wakefield.
Does it not help that I'm just throwing in my own questions?
That's not. It happens every week anyway, because there's something at the women's game we need to talk about, but we've got to talk about the grand final later anyway. So that links into that. There's something else I've completely forgotten now, which might have been to do with Cumbria, but probably wasn't. Kyle Amell, good on the telly as a commentator.
Yeah,
is
that the first time he's done that?
I think he might have done something on the Sportsman or something, but he does the skill.
He does the Sportsman.
He was good.
He's written a very nice piece about Shannie, as have you two, by the way. Thank you very much for that. But so's Kyle. Yeah.
That's a different thing to do.
Yeah.
And what's it with all these people at Leeds called Jamie or James with double-barreled surnames? Is that something to get involved now?
It's just for the broadcaster. It's easy to remember.
I know. So wheelchair grand final we've got to talk about. The women's grand final.
London not getting promoted in the women's Super League. Warrington getting demoted.
Warrington. Let's talk about Warrington now, because now you've reminded me, and that was one of the things I was going to mention. The RFL may as well just have deducted them 1,000 points, because it means nothing, because they finished bottom of the table anyway.
With no points.
Why don't they give them a proper punishment, like relegation to the 3rd tier, or
that might
a
still
fine,
happen.
an actual fine?
Their position in the Championship
is
not certain.
They brought the sport into disrepute.
Yes,
they did. Shocking.
I would have fined the parent club.
And again, it's nothing to do with the players.
And again, this is going to sound like Warrington bashing again. And
welcome to Warrington bashing. Is it about the badge? The badge is rubbish. It doesn't say wearing it or anything.
No, it's about the streaming of the
because I asked
Academy
this question.
Grand Final.
I asked this question because I was at work on Saturday evening, so I wouldn't have been able to see it. I would have been at home when it was on. Leeds did the reserve the week before for free on YouTube.
I absolutely get that there is a commercial imperative for every club to make money, as much money as they can. I also get that, as you say a lot, matches should be streamed more by clubs, and they should look to charge for it. I think that applies to...
Sorry. I thought I turned all my alarms off.
Are you just waking up?
Very sorry about that.
I think...
that's Halifax, Patrick.
I think that applies to first team level.
Yes.
But I think when you have made the final, the grand final of the academy...
Which is an RFL competition, they don't own it.
And you've got arguably your best crop of juniors that you've had for at least a couple of generations, and even some of your own fans need exposure to those because they play at Victoria Park or
at the end of a season where the first team has not had a great year. And this is something you might be able to celebrate if they happen to go on and win. Which
I do not understand why they put that behind a paywall, because I certainly would have watched it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have been interested at 1 o'clock on a Saturday, just to see how the best young talent that we've got, how good it really is. You were talking about we don't see enough players coming through. Well, these are the 2 best academies in 2025. Let's have a look at the kids. Let's play a game that we all love to play. Of how many of those do you think are going to make it? Apparently Warrington were brilliant. Ewan Irwin was the man of the match, who again his name we've mentioned about potentially, possibly could be playing more first team. And as you say, the reserves grand final streamed for free. People get to see, again, I'm not saying because it was streamed for free, because clearly it's not, but 2 of the Leeds team that played in that reserves grand final have signed for championship clubs.
And of the 2 games, the one which should have the most importance on it is the Academy Grand Final.
Yeah.
But this goes, should it be down to the club? Should it be down to the RFL? Because they were supposed to be streaming some Yorkshire Men's League matches, which I don't understand the point of streaming them.
But Warrington could have put that on free to air. Because I don't know how
many... They've got a YouTube channel, I'm sure they have.
I don't know how many Wire TV subscribers they've got who stayed in on a Saturday
lunchtime to watch it. That's not Wire TV, that became live TV for readers of Forty20 magazine.
I just thought that was, again, a mistake.
Ian says, Warrington say they have nothing to do with the women's team, so go figure. Well, they've given them the name. They've got them playing the kit.
They do,
for all intents and purposes.
By virtue of the badge.
Unless they're Warrington something else, which they're not. So, like pretending.
No, I think the club should have been fined. Yeah. Because if they're allowing them to use the...
4 games is a lot. In Super League, that's...
But 9 points makes no sense.
No. It makes no difference to anything, does it?
2 years ago, 2 years ago they got promoted. I phoned the club up and we had a conversation that I was told was off the record. So on that basis, I won't tell you who I spoke to. But the conversation, I was saying, look, half the St Helens team live in Warrington. Why don't you try and sign some of them? Yeah. And it was like, that's not even possible. We don't have the money to do that. We're coming out of COVID. It was COVID excuses. We don't have the money to do that. And I was like, come on, you do have the money. You're choosing not to spend it on this. And it's... to just get promoted and pretty much keep the same team, strengthen a little bit.
But to not buy into this one club mentality that Wigan...
But that was that was the first mistake with the first year, but they still didn't finish bottom. But then last year, well, in December, when they were getting their squad pulled apart by Swinton and a couple of other clubs, at that point, there should have been either just, look, we're just going to drop down a division and do it voluntarily. I understand that Featherstone approached the RFL saying, can we then stay in the WSL because we're going to be a lot stronger than Warrington. The RFL said to Featherstone, we can't do that. They would, and Warrington didn't want to drop out. So there's just mistakes on all sides. I think with the women's game, you couldn't do that in the men's game. The RFL couldn't say, well, we don't like the look of your squad, so you're out in the men's Super League because there'd be uproar. But I think in the women's game, I think maybe in a situation like that, you could. And just use a bit of common sense, but it should have been there, the ability to either remove Warrington last December when they were down to 6 or 7 players at training and all their best players had gone elsewhere, or the club should have just been, well, should have been both. The club should have been sensible enough just to say,
but I think the RFL can do that because there's an integrity issue for the competition, and that's what they're responsible for.
Yeah, it's a headline on the BBC website today. It's a news story, unfortunately, because
But, and full credit to Featherstone women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great result, yeah.
But I think, again, we've lost an opportunity by not having exposure in the south of England to Super League.
Well, the reason for sticking with 8 teams, I believe, was because there was a real hope that London or Cardiff would come in. Now, I understand that.
Well, if you believe that, just do it. And
well,
I know we've had
yeah.
people have a go at us before about this, so I understand you can't just say, let's kick a team out, but
you've said it for the last.
To 10 clubs.
You've said it for the last couple of weeks, and I've kind of agreed with you that it does open up player pools that aren't currently there. But at the end of the day, how competitive would London have been if they've lost to Featherstone yesterday?
Would they have been any less competitive than Warrington?
Well, no, of course not.
That's the thing, though.
But Featherstone will come up and be a lot stronger than Warrington.
But they will, and maybe they deserve their place. Yeah. But if you're looking at a strategic plan to spread, I mean, we've seen with. I didn't watch a single minute of the Women's Rugby Union Cup, but you can't avoid the headlines of 83,000 people at Twickenham and 5.8 million people watching it. Yeah. So there's clearly a market there that Rugby League can tap into. Mm-hmm. And it can do it in places like London and Cardiff a lot easier than it can in Featherstone. So if Featherstone deserve their place there, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. But don't ignore these two marks. They're playing in what they're calling the Northern Championship. It's pathetic.
I didn't like when Featherstone are lifting a trophy, it says the Women's Northern Championship. It shouldn't be Northern. No, it said Northern Women's Championship or something. No, it should be Women's Northern Championship.
Whatever.
But regardless, it's a silly name for a competition.
But Wakefield are currently very ambitious as well with their women's team.
But you see, again, that goes back, and this is where Warrington are culpable, I think, that Wakefield are ambitious because the management at Wakefield don't just see it as a men's team. Yeah. They're making conscious efforts to include a women's team. They've started on the road of a wheelchair team wearing the Trinity kit, which they'll support. They're looking at changing their training base and all that kind of. So it's a whole club mentality that Matt Ellis is wanting to fund, and he doesn't want it to rely solely on 13 men's home games. So if they can do that, why can't Warrington do that? Just
heading in another direction though, and you tend to know more about this sort of thing than I do.
I don't know anything, but just heading in another direction.
But if you've got Castle, I mean, I know we've debated this to death in the men's game with Calder. But Castleford, Wakefield, Featherstone, could you not merge the women's teams?
I've said
that. You've said that about
Hull, haven't you?
And the answer is but
the thing about Hull and Hull KR is that neither of them are strong women's teams. So if you want to be representative of the region, yes, you could. And if you get to the point where you've got so many women wanting to play that you split back off into your identities, what's wrong with that? Because don't follow the men's footprint is what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd love them to do it and call them Calder for
Morris's sake. And it's the mix of. We've said this before. It's a weird competition outside of Super League where you've got Hull FC versus Illingworth or whatever. And I don't even think they're in the same division. So I'm just using that as an example. But
my two favourite rugby league clubs are Workington Town and Heysham Atoms. I never thought they'd play, but the women's game has brought them together, and I'm delighted with that.
I think the other thing about you've got to look at what feeds underneath.
Yeah.
And in community clubs, there's a lot of girls that want to play the sport, and if you look at anything up to like under 12, virtually every team has a lot of girls coming in. Mm-hmm. And they're being encouraged at school now to play rugby league. When it gets to 12. And they have to have their own teams, there often aren't enough of them. So we lose them. Yeah. But if you were to combine resources, you were to have, London and the South as a region, and there's enough girls then to bring from Wandsworth and Brixton and wherever they're playing up to the age of 12, that's how you get to supplement your senior teams. So if you were at Wakefield, Castleford and Featherstone, and you were saying the idea is we want them to have open age teams, but what we're going to do underneath it from the age of 12 to 18 is have some kind of common way of just keeping all the girls together so that they can play and they don't then go and play rugby union or cricket or rounders or whatever it might be.
All together now, they all play in the Wakefield district, so it's called Wakefield, and there's 3 teams, it's called Trinity. So. Brett says, he's asking about Paige Travis, who is left Parramatta, one of 10 players they've released last week. I don't know if she's homesick or not, Brett, because we don't know these things. But one would take the opinion that if she was going to come back to England, she'd probably end up at Wigan because they'll always throw the checkbook around. Oh, is that a bit harsh? You know, I'm allowed to say that about Wigan. They won't let me in now. I've not had my accreditation yet for Sunday, so I might not get let in. But that's what people on the internet would say that.
If they want to, they'll probably outbid St Helens. But St Helens are a very, very close group of players, and I think that would be a very tough decision for Paige not to go back to Saints. But Saints replaced Paige with Shona Hoyle, and they've got Emily Rudge, so who knows?
She might end up at one of the other clubs. She might end up at Wests or something with Craig Sandercock.
Yeah.
Who's just taken over as coach.
The first year away from home is always the hard. You look at men, overseas players who have gone on to be legends. You know,
Joel Moon found it difficult in Salford, had to move to Leeds.
Might have been a different.
The problem with Paige was she went to a club who had two brilliant second rowers, Cherrington and Murphy, but they were both injured at the start of the season, but they were always going to come back in, and I think that was the issue for her.
I wouldn't be surprised if she stays out there.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. They all seem to like her out there. Can't be all Fran Goldthorpe, says Brett. No, they can't. Player of the year, whatever she was at
North.
She's had a brilliant year on the wing.
Which again, it took her a little bit of time to realise that wing was her position, because she went out there going, I want to be full back, and they had somebody at full back who she wasn't going to displace, and reluctant, I think, to start playing on the wing. And once she decided that if I can get in the team by playing on the wing, brilliant.
And in a weekend of talking about referee decisions, just think back to that 2019 grand final, which is non-controversial for many reasons. However, those tries that she scored that she didn't score.
Did she not?
No. Well, the referee should have not given them against Castleford.
Did she?
No. Well, apparently not, but in the books, let's try. So,
I think she must have done.
She must have done. Before we talk anything more about women, let's talk about something else, and then people will say, why are you talking about Saints and Leeds yet? Because we'll talk about Leigh and Wakefield first, because that was the first of the semi-finals in the Men's Super League this week, and Leigh were absolutely superb. The attack, obviously, we all know about Lachlan Lamb and so on and so forth, but the defensive effort and to keep Wakefield pinned back time and time again in that first 20, 25, 30 minutes, the whole game, that was it. Wakefield couldn't come back from that. And I've seen people criticise individual efforts from the Wakefield players or whatever, but there's nothing they could do about that Leigh defence, Leigh pack. It was just smothering them throughout the early stages of the game and built up a lead, and now they're in the semi-final at Wigan on Friday night.
I think the interesting issue to come out of that game, before we talk about how Leigh managed to suffocate Wakefield, was the alleged racist comment by Lachlan Lamb, which has now been referred to a disciplinary a week on Monday. So he can play this weekend, but he might get banned for a grand final if they get there because the case hasn't been heard. Can you imagine that happening in the NRL? That, you know, there's an allegation. It's like there'd be an investigation there and then. There'd be a case there and then. There'd be a decision there and then. There'd be an appeal before the next game if the player thought he needed an appeal. We're going.
What's going to change between this week?
So what's the official reason for that then? If you phoned up the RFL tomorrow and said, why is this? Why can't it be done straight away?
I think they'll be gathering evidence. They'll be putting together legal for whatever it might be. But it's just such, again, it's a hard look to sell to the outside world.
It was the same with Sinead Peach. I mean, that skipped a week, and then it got deferred another week. Yeah. But York had stood her down anyway, which I'm guessing Leigh won't do.
No,
obviously.
Derek
they can take that game off. Yeah.
I don't know if you're guilty or not, but you're not playing this.
Take the game off. I mean, the only players banned this week are Wakefield and Leeds players, so it's a bit pointless.
Well, they're not banned.
Well, no, not even that. In addition, says the Rugby Football League, the panel have referred an allegation of unacceptable language against Leigh Leopard's Lachlan Lamb for further investigation by RFL compliance. The allegation was made by a Wakefield player during the match and included in the referee's report. Both clubs will be asked to make submissions, meaning that any hearing would not take place until the week starting October 6th at earliest, the same process as with previous instances of this type.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm just not saying whether that's right or not. It seems wrong to me.
Can I float an old idea of mine that I've never got anyone to agree with me over?
Well, it's not nets on goalposts, is it?
No.
To be fair, we might not agree with you.
No, that's fair enough. I'm expecting it.
The other thing is we don't want a point for whoever's winning at half time.
No, I'm not in favour of that. Instead of banning players, just make them do community punishments with amateur clubs. Make them go and coach an amateur club for a month.
Brian Noble columnist from the very beginning of this very magazine, has said that in terms of high tackles that players are going to get banned for, it's an education thing, and that they should be sent to tackling school to improve their technique, but also out into the community to teach younger players better tackling technique by their example of what it's cost them. And I think there's merit in that.
I think a ban would be if Lachlan misses a grand final, that's a huge punishment. But he could do the same thing 3 months ago and he'd miss a totally pointless game in round 16, 17 and 18 and just go and sit on a beach for 3 weeks. It's not really a punishment more often than not.
No, I think education is the answer.
Well, we'll see what happens next week, and hopefully it doesn't get delayed again, because with the Sinead Peach case you mentioned...
Well, if it got delayed again and they did win, he could play in the game.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
what seemed to happen in the Sinead case was that my understanding is there was an element of confusion there with sort of evidence and such like, so it was just deferred a week, so Leigh could just turn up and
say that
we haven't
been able to ask Lachlan's coach.
Wakefield's players have gone off on holiday. They've gone now, so it's Mad Monday. We can't get hold of them.
With the game, I just thought Leigh showed their experience of being in this position for the last couple of years, and Wakefield are learning. But Wakefield's ball control in those early stages, when they were under extreme defensive pressure, wasn't quite there. Their kicking game wasn't quite as good as it had been, and that's because they've not played at this in this kind of game before. The fact that they didn't capitulate is the biggest advantage for Wakefield. Because at half time I worried that this was going to be a 40 or 50 point blowout, and I think they've got a lot to build on, and the squad's changing a little bit and they're bringing in some more experienced players. I think seeing Tyson Smoothie play for Brisbane, get into a grand final, must have been gladdening the hearts of Wakefield, because obviously he's going to be there next year. So yeah, Leigh have got a formula now because they've played in a lot of big games recently and they stuck to it brilliantly, and their pack was enormous. The fact that Owen Trout is now playing in the second row, when you got Mulhern, Offengawi and Trout and Liu, who was man of the match, that's a tough pack to roll over.
Trout's in the England...
He's in the squad.
Long squad thing, isn't it?
If you think where Leigh were 6-7 years ago, it's extraordinary, isn't it? And on top of that, yeah.
And Wakefield.
Well, it's the power of cash as well, isn't it?
But it's the power of cash in the knowledge that whatever you're investing is not a transient thing, which comes back to promotion relegation. That I'm not sure Matt Ellis would have been as keen to be developing the club at the speed he is doing it if there was a chance they could have got relegated. I think it's the same with Derek, because we saw Leigh get relegated and there were some questions over what's his level of investment going to be. We saw it with Hull KR. Neil Hudgell had to make a decision. Where did he want them to go, and what other investors could he bring in? But he could do that when he knew that once we went to grading, we'll get to the point where we can't be excluded from Super League.
Yeah.
And I think that's been massive for all three of those clubs.
But clubs in the past who would maybe have a really unexpectedly good year would often then fall away.
Yeah.
And that's what's been impressive about Leigh and Hull KR, that they haven't.
Because they knew that if they got it right, off the field as well as on the field, they could back their coach on the field, and they could move the club to a point where they were going to achieve all the minimum standards, however they were measured. Their investors would get a return.
And I think I'm right in saying they've all got coaches who have previously been sacked by other clubs, which is just the way that coaching is. There's nothing wrong with that. Whereas 20 years ago, that would mean you didn't get a job anywhere else, and that was it for you.
Disappointingly, the top 6 tour merchandise not been reduced yet in the Wakefield club shop, so I won't be buying any of that soon. But
does it just have one venue on the back? It's like it's like the what was it, the gig T-shirts that you can buy? It just says Leigh.
Yeah.
Another question I've got. I meant to look this up. How has 6 in the top 6 playoffs? Has 6 ever won away at third?
Yes, I think so. But
is it probably going to be Leeds one year or something?
No, Leeds did it from first.
Because it shouldn't be that big a chasm. All right, the home
but this is
advantage
another
away
worry
from
with
third.
going to 14.
Yeah.
That they're thinking of extending it to 8.
Oh,
Which never worked.
That was one of Nigel's big mistakes first time round.
And the team that is
believe they're gonna
8th
do that
would be
again.
likely to have lost more games than it won, but still have a chance of winning the grand final.
Yeah, same as last time. It was a huge win. When we had top 5, it was brilliant, but top 6 was also brilliant in the early 2000s, and it went up to about 07 or 08, and he made it top 8, and it killed the playoffs. I remember there was a round of playoff games in about 09 maybe, and the first weekend was awful. 4 poor crowds,
Was that
4
Wakefield
one-sided
Catalans
games.
that year?
No, I remember Wigan had a home game possibly with Celtic Crusaders that year, so the
Yes, Celtic
Nobby
made the
was
playoffs
there.
that
Yeah. I seem to remember just the first round of playoff games were just really poor, one-sided games and low crowds. But when we had the top 6, I remember there was a year where even taking Old Trafford out, the average crowd was about 16,000. We had a time when it was really good.
Yeah,
we've
still
the
got
move
an
to
issue
top 8 was a huge area.
with the season ticket culture and these games.
Yeah.
But I do think the great thing about Leigh on Friday night wasn't just the result, which clearly, I think it set us up for an absolutely fantastic semi-final. With the greatest respect to Wakefield.
I don't think we were going to win Super League.
No, but Wigan and
We might
Leigh, to refer back to the game
Yeah,
number one.
Yeah, what a game that was.
And everybody's saying, I can't rule Leigh out of this.
Yeah.
I think the match experience, which I know Derek tells us, and I've no reason to dispute it. I've been there. I know that they do a
Great
hell of.
show. Yeah.
Don't know if it's the greatest show on earth, but it's certainly a great show.
Yeah.
And that experience of going into the first playoff game with all the razzmatazz and the fireworks and the 2 great stories of here are 2 clubs that have come out of the Championship and look at them now, and haven't Wakefield. Wakefield's achievement is making the 6. Their season line under it successful. Go and buy a season ticket, could be even better. So they've achieved more than what they set out to achieve, I think. Leigh, we think we can hold our own against the big 2. Well, we're going to get the chance to see it.
I want to mention 2 halfbacks in a moment, but first, hello to the Wigan fan I spoke to yesterday, whose name I forgot to ask, but he said he was a fan of the programme. I mean, what's that all about? And Kat, who was there as well, who we know loves wheelchair rugby league, so Kat, it was good to see you on the pitch afterwards. And all these people on the pitch afterwards, will they get banned now? Will they get thrown out of rugby league forever?
Did Kyle Amos say there's some people on the pitch?
2 halfbacks. Let me get the flippant part out of the way first, because I want to talk about Lachlan Lamb in a moment. But I thought that the timing by Hull KR and Sky of the Mikey Lewis announcement was disrespectful to both those teams involved, but especially Leigh, because we should have had 15 minutes of talking about how great Leigh were in that first half, and we had to talk about Mikey Lewis signing a new contract, because their club, Hull Kingston Rovers, and Sky, because they obviously pre-taped that interview before, decided to put that on at half-time in the match. I thought that was disrespectful. It didn't need to be then. It could have been announced at any point. And it was announced in commentary. So we've got some big breaking news for you at half-time. No, I want to watch the game.
It's an insecurity about how we think we're going to hit the headlines, because all of the headlines on Friday after 6 o'clock should have been about that game, building up to it, what happened in it, post-match reaction. You're introducing a second mainstream story that is going to detract from that. It's because we're insecure that we can manage another story at another time. It's like, no, Mikey's a big name. Do it this week when Hull KR come back into the competition, and make it a big part of your build up to this week. But no, I'm with you on that. I just didn't see the point.
And that's not because
there wasn't even an embargo.
No, it
just happened.
But
an embargo.
I wanted to hear about Leigh because
Leigh.
The Shane Wright one, yeah. I wanted to hear about Leigh because Leigh were really good. I didn't want to hear about it, did I? But yeah. But Lachlan Lamb. Sorry, go on.
I was just about to say, do either of you think they can go to Wigan and win? Well, they obviously
can. Lachlan Lamb, is this a case where the rugby league media, not me because I voted for Lockie Miller, got it right because he's not in the dream team. He's not on the Man of Steel shortlist, is he? No. But the rugby league writers and broadcasters made him the player of the year. And I wish I'd voted for Eva Hunter. Every year I say I'm going to vote for a woman to try and smash the patriarchy and then forget to do so. So I'm a bad ally to women. I apologise for that. But Lachlan Lamb, we the collective rugby league media, we can't pretend we're not part of it. We are.
tangential. We're only on the fringe.
Player of the year.
Yeah,
that was
I voted for
us.
him. I voted for him because I think he's had more influence on more games than any other player.
Should he have been sent off? Toss him bin?
No.
Playoffs, isn't it?
No. Well, you're going to ask the same about Curtis Sirenin in the Leeds game, and no, I don't. And we all go, oh, it's a disgrace. We're refereeing it to a different standard. We've always done that. They do it in the NRL.
Well, in NRL you can headbutt people now. It's all right.
And it's accepted. The rules don't change, but the interpretation of them do when it comes to playoff time, because we want the best against the best in the last night of the season.
I'd love to see stats on that of yellow and red cards.
It definitely.
I'm sure I've asked James and he did.
Do you remember the first ever playoff match though?
Oh, come on.
What, 1998?
Yeah. I'll ruin it for you. Graham Bradley got sent off.
Right.
For not much. And then Paul Mueller got sent off.
Well, when you say he got sent off for not much, he was Graham Bradley.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. He got sent off for being Graham Bradley. Yeah, I'm with you on
and
that.
to be fair, if I'm on the judiciary, I'd be going, Graham, what do you think?
There might have been a red card in the wheelchair yesterday, which would have been... I don't know what happens if there's a red card.
There'll be a disciplinary.
No, but did it
3 weeks on Tuesday.
Well, I'm sure it must have done.
Yeah.
Do you get? Are you allowed to bring a player back on late? You can't play 4 players for a whole... I don't know. Because the sin bin's 8 minutes, I think. Because we were discussing...
Are there many sin bins?
Not many, no.
Rarely, in fact. But the great thing about that, because again we're switching from Leigh were great, Wakefield.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say. Leigh can go to Wigan and win.
Yes, because they have. And they will have no fear, and they play a style of rugby under Adrian Lamb that is difficult to predict. They will play, if they see an opportunity, they'll play. And you know their defence is going to be watertight.
And if Wigan win 40-0, League Express headline on Monday, Silence of the Lambs. They didn't go with the right stuff there. I was very disappointed with that.
Was it wide to right?
Yeah.
Left to right.
Left to right.
Have they used Silence of the Lambs before? Or have you just given them an idea? That's a good one.
I'm not a headline right, am I? I barely did journalism at college.
The thing about the wheelchair...
Wheelchair, yes. Should we talk about that now, since I was there?
Can do.
You may have seen me on telly, I apologise.
Well, we saw your sleeve.
I've got to stop wearing pink, haven't I? Yeah, it's not good.
The sin binning was fantastic news value.
But should he have been a red card? Because he pulled him back. You can't do that. Should Rob Hawkins, friend of the programme, should have been sin binned for throwing a ball at his head?
The fact that...
Which was funny.
The headlines, as much as Halifax winning the treble, for congratulations.
Yes.
Fantastic. As much as that, the social media was awash with a sin binning in a grand final in wheelchair rugby league. I think that's elevated wheelchair rugby league to another level. The fact that, have you seen the fight in the wheelchair? Like,
is that when
they're in a wheelchair and having a fight?
When that one from the French Challenge Cup final where the fella ran over someone's head. I don't think he got sent off for that either, in fairness.
I thought Sky's coverage was excellent. I thought the elevation of wheelchair back into published consciousness was fantastic. It made me regret that we hadn't had more of it, and it's something we spoke about 2 or 3 weeks ago on this programme, that I think the ability to captivate an audience with wheelchair rugby league is something we haven't exploited enough. I don't think we fully appreciate the value that we've got. It was a great game, but more importantly, because obviously we know a lot of the people that played in it, the interviews afterwards were fantastic. Everybody has got an eloquence about them, a story to tell. A bit like, no, it's not comparable. The Ryder Cup, the excitement was seeing the interviews with how much it meant to the Europeans. And you got that a little bit of sense of that in wheelchair rugby league. That Halifax's achievement was, brought on by the pressure of losing last year. London were the first time they were there, and what it meant to them. Tom Coyde's last game in charge, and I just thought the whole thing showed us why we should do more with wheelchair.
Which, of course, as someone who was there, I didn't realise he'd said that on the telly, so that was good.
So a couple of weeks ago you said that the game just hasn't kicked on as it should have done after the World Cup, which I'm guessing that's
the game has the game has kicked on in terms of participation. Right. So more people are playing it than ever before. More teams are out there. More regional championships are being played. More new clubs are being set up. So that's a real benefit, and is to the credit of the governing body for helping to facilitate that. Our argument, I think, or mine, you can disagree if you want, and certainly I think it was picking up on something that James Simpson Hill was saying, is that at one point in 2002, on a Friday night, 4,500 people were in the stadium, 1.5 million people watching on BBC Two. We had an opportunity then to translate that into regular wheelchair coverage, to the point that when we get to 2025, it's a sport that stands in its own right. It doesn't have just an event every now and again, and you don't know when it's coming, and there's no context behind the event because you haven't seen any league game. We did, to the uninitiated, they didn't know who Halifax and London were. Yeah. They saw a great game between two teams that were evenly matched and competitive, but they didn't have any backstory. And I think what we've lost was the ability to promote the elite on a more regular basis. That we lost focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a round one game in 2023 after the World Cup, and I was so disappointed that it just wasn't bigger on the back of them winning the World Cup. There was a better game that wasn't really promoted. I struggled to find the venue,
and it's hard to know the fixtures, and the stories are there. Yeah, the ability to spread the game, and again away from the male footprint, is huge. Yeah. If you take it as a product, you can sell it in places where rugby league isn't currently played, but it's so rugby league. Getting sin binned, you're not going to get that in murder ball or.
One of my boys had a birthday party when the Wheelchair World Cup was on, and I just got several of the mums and dads. Look, I hope you don't mind, the children were having fun, and put the Wheelchair World Cup on just for 10 minutes. They were all absolutely. If I'd put a normal game of rugby league on, maybe only one or two would have been interested, but they were like, "Whoa!" This has got to be easier to market.
And I think that's what we were saying, that it's not so much about the players that play it, it's not so much about the clubs that take it seriously. It's about, if you are a passing viewer, you want to interact with it more, we haven't given you that opportunity.
Yeah, I can't remember who said to me, it's like Rocket League, which will mean nothing to us, but it means a lot to the young people. Which is a game where it's cars playing football, in a sense. So that's the basic and it's people moving around. It's balletic at times. It's brutal.
The courage to get in a chair and then be able to manipulate it to play a sport.
How does Jack Brown swiftly skips like that? I'm trying to do it.
There was a big argument a year or so ago. It's maybe still going on, but like I say, I've been so engrossed in Shannie's book for the last year that I've lost touch with a few things. But the argument that the game was moving away from people who had physical disabilities because it was becoming too physical, and
again, it's a good argument, but it's an interesting argument because one of the USPs of wheelchair rugby league is that anybody can play it. Yeah, and there are regulations about how many disabled people you have to have in a team, how many able-bodied you have to have in a team. Yeah. The difficulty sometimes is classification, because at what point do you move from being able-bodied to disabled, or what's the bit in the middle where you're impaired but you're not disabled? Yeah, so I get all of that, but I think you've at elite level, we couldn't turn out this weekend for Wigan, but we could go and play for Askham Thirds. Yeah. So do you compromise what you do at the very top? Yeah. Because they're better at it and harder at it and more physically attuned. At wheelchair international and grand final level, I want to see great athletes. Yeah. I want to see them getting sin binned and flying into each other.
But I suppose the argument is that somebody with a spinal injury,
but it doesn't stop you participating. But you never get, with the greatest respect, you're not trying to play for England. Yeah. So I think if you then can go to your local club and they say, we got a team that you can play in, and you can play with your sister or brother, because even though they're able-bodied, they can play as well. You just go, this is for me.
But it was the French pushing the argument that I'm saying, isn't it?
Because suddenly the French weren't the number one nation. But that's a different argument.
Fair enough. Casper Wass, 15.
Yes.
Scores a hat-trick in the grand final in a losing effort. 15, we think.
Arsenal had a 15-year-old this season, so...
But it's great, though, isn't it? Absolutely. It's the branch of the sport where men and women play together. Yeah. It's like, what box does wheelchair rugby league not tick for everybody? And have we made enough of being the world champions for 3 years, and we're saying what a great game it was on Sunday? What have we seen this year?
With no England France is doing that
Where does it go now? We've had a grand final. I know that the England team are going to Australia to play in the Ashes, and even though that might be televised, it's going to be in the middle of the night. It's not going to have quite the same impact that if we had a domestic game like that in the Super League. It's called Super League, so let's.
Is there any indication that the Australians are stronger now?
Stronger, but they won't be as strong as England.
Right. Yeah, speaking to Jack Brown yesterday, because he was out there.
He's coached Queensland.
Yeah. It's growing. Right. It's growing. People there are getting behind it. They just need more people to get behind it.
The thing is, if the NRL see its potential and value and get behind it, it'll grow.
And then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because they've got money and stuff, and lots of people who want to play rugby. But Halifax, Jack Brown got the player of the match. Rob Hawkins, I said got the player of the match. He didn't. He scored a hat-trick. Jack Brown scored 4. They were just so quick. Just so quick to get from one end of the pitch to the other.
But also, London. It's London's first grand final. And they got to the Challenge Cup final this year. It's been a great season for them.
Lewis King.
Again, we want a name of London to be at the elite end of our sport to sell it to wider markets.
Lewis King is another England captain who speaks well, has interesting things to say.
And a funny accent.
Yeah. You can ask him about West Ham. The second England international captain to spot West Ham after somebody else.
At least he has a reason to. The other one didn't.
Gary Schofield actually supports West Ham.
Yeah, that's what we were alluding to.
Oh, not Bobby Moore?
No. Bobby Moore, as far as I know, didn't support Rugby League.
Right, I thought it was a genuinely
Rugby League
rated
West Ham fan.
I thought I'd got you then.
Whereas Scholes was a bit more spurious about the colour of the kit. Lewis King is actually from that part of the world.
But well done, Halifax. And they've won all 3 trophies this year. And Wigan could win all 3 trophies in the Women's Super League. And Hull KR could win all 3 trophies in the Men's Super League. And York could win all 3 trophies available to them in the Championship brackets. They could have won the Challenge Cup, but they weren't going to do. But so, what a bizarre season. What a bizarre season it is and continues to be. St Helens and Leeds. We'll come on to the Women's Grand Final in a bit. St Helens and Leeds. Leeds and St Helens. So I was at work. I couldn't watch this game concentrating on it because it was the Irish Greyhound Derby. Cheap sandwiches. What a win. What a performance.
Is that what you got while you were commentating? Cheap sandwiches.
But I got into the taxi after work and it was in time for the last minute of the game. And I know there's all this controversy about what happened before and should John Bennison's try be a try or not, or this or that or the other. But let's just... There's no point, because what happened was, frankly, the most ridiculous piece of rugby league we've seen in a long time. It's quite funny, because Dave Wood said afterwards, have you seen anything like this? And I said, yeah, we have. But it's all these people who said Penrith ending there, 4 in a row. Will we see anything like this again? Well, we might do, because there's a chance. How many did St George win? I know it was a different era.
11. Oh, 11. It was the 12th where they didn't, yeah.
So, it could happen again. Saints won however many here. Wigan could go on and win 4. We don't know. Things like that, it will happen again, this, because it's just ridiculous, and it happened. It could have stopped at any point. Someone could have taken Harry Robertson's head off when they probably should have done.
They might have got a penalty.
So
but they wouldn't have kicked it from there.
Paul Wellens said after the game that somebody in the press conference reminded me about Wide to West, and then I noticed your video.
I'm assuming
25 years ago.
I can only assume it was me.
Yes, he did.
I was at the Wide to West game, and I really underestimated how I came away thinking, well, it wasn't an elimination match, and and it just exploded. And it exploded, I think, 1 because of Eddie Hemmings' commentary, and 2 because they went on to win the competition. Whereas they'd been struggling a bit. They'd been hammered by Wigan in the minor Premiership decider, and then they didn't play very well in that game, and they were losing, and that catapulted them to a new level. That try. I'm guessing that won't happen this time, but what a moment to have.
And people still think Dwayne West scored that try.
It's always made me laugh that Chris Joynt was just the nicest, most modest fella, such an underrated player. He scores the most famous try and it's named after someone else. I missed
the bit where Eddie Hemmings shouts joint over and over again.
I think the other thing about that is it Alan Hunt that's inside him? Screaming.
You're going like that.
Sullivan, I think.
Was it Sullivan?
I think it was Sullivan, yeah.
And they to this day, though, the players of that generation still think that Joint should have passed.
I thought Wright should have passed it. I thought he was going to get tackled. You were there, Phil.
I was there.
I think one of the defenders has got the winger in his eye though, and
Yeah.
It was just an astonishing. It's why you watch sport.
I think you need to break down this move to realise. Now, seriously, to realise why it was so astonishing.
If we were able to show you the video, viewers, listeners, I would, but we're not allowed. So
it was a better try than wide to us.
It was. You knew that the only option Saints had was to move the ball. You also knew that the one thing that Saints team have in their DNA is the ability to move the ball. But you look at the people who were involved, and there's one person I think who hasn't got the credit they deserve, and that's Matt Whitley. Because what Robertson does is fantastic. Leeds behave a tiny little bit about an under-9s team. They're all chasing the ball.
Under-7s. Bit harsh on under-9s.
Right. But, it was almost like you're watching a playground game where one kid is like racing through the side, everybody's moving across the tackle. Robertson doesn't get enough credit for getting a pass away either, because he was actually... The one thing about the Leeds defence was they did push him up a cul-de-sac a little bit. There was nowhere for him to go. He wasn't going to score in the corner, but he manages to get a pass away. That's the bit of it. Yes, he's beaten 6 men and everybody's replaying that bit. Yeah. But to get the pass away is one thing. All of this is done at instinct level. None of this is planned.
Yeah.
It gets to Tristan Saylor. Tristan Saylor is facing the Leeds corner. And he has no idea what's outside of him. But he puts in the most ridiculous reverse flick pass. But that could have gone anywhere. The fact that it was brilliantly executed enough to land at chest level is one thing. But he didn't know who he was throwing that to. And a Leeds defence that had been slightly more aware, and will replay this a million times, only needed to move up one pace to either knock that ball down or block it out. The person who does not get enough credit is Matt Whitley, who started that move. He's been involved at the beginning to get it out to Robertson. Not only does he see this ball coming at him, but he catches it and moves it on, because he knows that if he can get it away, they've got a 3-man overlap. But Whitley could have dropped it. He could have not been aware of it. He could be exhausted. He could be too far into the Leeds line or too far back to make a clean catch of it. But not only does he get it, but he has the absolute talent and presence to move it on. I think this is, you can talk all you want about tries that should have been allowed and not been allowed. The skill to win that game was astonishing. And then you've got Lomax and Wellesby, and if you want to put the ball in 2 pairs of hands that are going to get an outcome at the end of it, those are the 2 that you want. And there was only one time that they could pass that ball for maximum impact. They both nailed it. And I think Wright did. He thought, I'm a second rower. My right to left passing skills probably not as good as Johnny Lomax's. I just need to go as hard as I can at the line, and made it. And it's one of those elements of sporting drama that transcend a sport. So Shane Lowry's putt went far beyond golf, and his reaction to it and his interview straight after it. You suddenly go, and this is why we love sport. It doesn't matter whether you like golf. This is why we love sport. Moments like this. That did the same. That on Saturday night, all you got, whether you were at the ground, whether you were chasing your social media, whether you were looking at the headlines in national broadcasters, you were putting Greatest Hits Radio on. They were talking about Watson Helen. It was astonishing.
It's great that the try was just there on social media in minutes.
That Leeds will look at themselves and the referee is an issue, and we can talk about why it happened, but they needed to make one tackle. They were one tackle away from going to Hull KR, and they didn't have the discipline to do that. And Saints had one minuscule opportunity to turn around the game and took it, and that was it.
Well, and the Saints media team have been very, when I say team, been very good in taking the various commentaries from 5 Live and Talk Sport and putting them over them. We'll see if they can put your description over it as well. That'd be good. That's an idea for you.
I just thought it was. You could see it was almost like slow motion when you were there.
It's happening in front of you.
What you could see was if they could get it out, there was a chance. But you didn't think there was a chance of them getting out.
Oh, they looked trapped, didn't they?
Yeah. So even Robertson's brilliant run hadn't taken him to a point where he could score.
So watching on, I mean, you'd have seen the whole thing, but watching on telly, you just think, well, okay, this is good, but there's, and then it's suddenly the camera pans out, and you just think they're going to score here, and that was Dave's commentary.
Yeah.
It just suddenly they're going to score here, And it's this, what a moment.
And all three of those commentaries I've heard are all describing what they see in front of them. There's no pre-planned lines. You can't, like the players, they can't plan for that. You just have to say what is going on in front of you.
I do think there's one other element that has been missed in all of the understandable talk about wrong refereeing decisions and whether that affected the outcome of the game. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Saints' ability to stay in the game was massively underestimated. Leeds were dominant for big periods, and Leeds probably should have scored more points, but the fact that they didn't wasn't that they weren't good enough, it was that Saints found a way of staying in the game, and I don't think they were given enough credit for that. Now, whether they've done that enough this year, whether they can do it this week at Hull KR, whether they do it enough against the higher ranked teams, immaterial. The one thing that that team had on Saturday night was an ability to put themselves in a position to win. Benison's try had been disallowed. They still might have scored 2 tries in the last 5 minutes.
We don't know, do we?
No.
Obviously.
But you, I mean, at the end of the first half, though, they should have scored, but Lomax put in that poor kick on the second tackle when Leeds players were exhausted as well. And you just mentioned the fact that they took the wrong option, then they took the right option when it mattered. But just going back to wide to west, Ian Millwood said to me once that he said to his players, if you ever need to score on the last play of the game, what do? And they all said, kick it. And he said, no, you don't kick it. You just kick the ball away, and they take, so obviously, I watched North Queensland women in their playoff game. They needed to do that. Yes, well, exactly. The most bizarre kick ever that probably confused the hell out of it. But to do that, and not one player in those 16 passes was tempted to kick the ball, because you do just have that, I've got to kick it.
Yeah.
And even if the opposition fullback knocks it on, they can still dive on it and the game's
level
over. Yeah.
To complete 20 seconds after the hooter had gone, got lost in all of the debate about it was the referee's fault.
When we come to the end of the season, everything's calmed down. They need to sit Robertson and Sailor down with that in slow motion. Just say, what were you doing here? What's going on with the whole team? What were you doing?
They wouldn't have thought anything.
No,
that is
just
hours and hours of relentless skill practice. And I do think that we can talk if you want about the refereeing decisions, but the fact is the RFL have now acknowledged that there's been an error.
Can I ask a question? I that happened in the time that I drove over here. So can you talk us through? Because I watched it and I kind of thought I had to try, but I'm no expert, and I watched it once and I went to make a cup of tea and came back and it had been given.
There's a discernible camera angle that shows that John Benison grounded the ball before the line.
Okay.
And the ball is complete. It's grounded. So
you can't then move it forward, but it's not
any
a knock
movement
on.
then is a double movement.
Right.
So
okay.
They have admitted that try should have been disallowed. Now, my only argument about, because I don't think it gets us anywhere to.
No, it's pointless.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because they've admitted it, and you don't know what's going to happen in a different 5 minutes. As the analogy we always use, and I'm sorry if anyone who remembers the water splash final in 1968 is indeed watching tonight. But if Don Fox had kicked that goal, then any debate about John Atkinson's try that should not have been allowed, but was,
it. I don't know who's left, but we're going to replay it.
Is immaterial. You don't talk about that try because you've won. And it didn't, the referee did not enable Leeds to win that final because it wasn't the referee that missed the kick.
If Don Fox had have kicked it, we wouldn't have had anything to moan about.
No, exactly.
Even like 12 years before I'm born, I wouldn't have had anything to moan about now.
The only thing we thought at normal speed, in the ground, different to all the angles you get on replays in a television environment, and we even the big screen, you're trying to write something at the same time as you're watching it. At normal speed, when it happened, Jack Smith's positioning could not have been any better. Well, he is virtually leaning over because John Benison.
That's why I was surprised.
Right. And I get you're 5 minutes from time in an elimination playoff, and you go, I just need to check. I think I know what's happened. Yeah. No try.
No, that's fair enough. He did say no try,
And so, just check that I've got this right. It's double. The issue, I think, then becomes why, if there is any element of doubt, how you can overrule it. And I think that's the issue that would upset the referees department, that if it had gone up as a try, nobody has any argument. Oh, there's a bit of, I can't really tell you whether it's a double movement or not. Go with the on-field call. This one, yeah, there's a camera that says he might have done, there's a camera that says he might not have done. Go with the on-field call.
Have we ever had the video referee process, the current one, shown to us? You know, in terms of what they see and do in their...
We were supposed to get a trip to Wilmslow at the beginning of this season to view how it works, but that was called off.
When I say we, I mean everyone.
No.
Because I think we need to know...
But if the media go and can then report back, that's everyone knowing.
They could make a video. They could show it. They could talk us through how a decision's made. Because I think that would... Well, it would help in the sense that we'd understand. It wouldn't help because everyone will disguise it's a conspiracy anyway, and the referees hate Leeds.
I think the more interesting, because there's been an error.
Yeah.
Players make errors. The interesting one is the Ash Handley try that was chalked off, because again, if you're going to say, it would have made a difference, if Leeds had gone 16-6 up, possibly 18-6, I'm not sure Saints would have come back from that.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
When he crosses the line and puts it down, you're thinking this is potentially 24th.
But the interesting thing about that is the referee gave that in good faith. It was a brilliant captain's challenge from St Helens to have that reviewed.
It was, yeah.
As indeed was the captain's challenge on Ryan Hall knocking on, which Leeds went to, which they should never have done. But if Leeds had a captain's challenge for that very last play left, at least it would have been... If they weren't happy about the Benison try, they could have had a captain's challenge. They'd burnt it.
Do you like the captain's challenge?
I think we'll just get better at it.
Yeah.
I think we're judging it too early.
Yeah.
I think St Helens showed on Saturday night
massive.
why the captain's challenge works. And they did it twice, and they won it twice. Too many clubs burn their captain's challenge too early.
Yeah.
With things that they know they're not going to win. I think in Australia the captain's challenge is now used much more sparingly because they know how to use it.
Right.
That will come.
Yeah, I'm sorry to come on here and mention another podcast, but I heard...
Depends which one.
Brian Noble. Well, I heard a podcast with Brian Noble, Jamie Peacock.
Oh, that's the BBC, that's fine. That's
that.
fine.
They all seem pretty scathing of it. And,
but I'm scathing of it because we don't do it well. But I think it's going to get better.
Yeah, then just 24 hours listening to that podcast and then watching it, and Saints have kept the season alive by getting it right. Yeah.
Can you imagine if that Handley try had been allowed, and then through all of the replays, referee didn't see the obstruction, that he didn't put it upstairs, he's getting then vilified. Saints have said, no, we think there's an obstruction here, and it's proved that they were right.
Maybe I want to see the process, because as someone who at work in my proper job, quote unquote, works with... Sometimes I vision mix for myself, so to speak, and sometimes someone does it for me. So they put the pictures on screen that I have to talk about, or I put the pictures on screen and I talk about. So I don't know how... It's all right, can I see this angle, can I see that angle? But then if another angle comes up afterwards, well, where was that angle before? And it's very confusing, and I don't know what's going on. But... So Leeds are out, but they've had a good season, so that was good.
No, and again, I think you look at... Let's go back to the beginning of the season, and we will have all done it either in print or at home to amuse our poor selves. Where would we have predicted Leeds would have finished this year? And if you just said top four in a home playoff, that would have been a good season, building on two really poor seasons where they finished 8th both times. So I think Leeds will be disappointed that they let their home fans down. They would have wanted one crack at Hull KR. But it's been a successful season. Can I make an analogy?
Yeah, and in a moment I'll tell you how bad I am at tipping things.
That's
from 2022, that's all right, I'll put it off.
Is that more accurate than
this year? No, because 2022 I've got Warrington second and Catalan's third. Well, that didn't happen this year. Go on, sorry, Sean.
It's a crumb of solace for Leeds fans, which most of the people watching and then subsequently listen to this will go, we're not interested, we hate Leeds. But I'm going to say it anyway. 2003, last game of the season.
Yeah, I remember it.
Final eliminator at Headingley. Final score, Leeds 22, Wigan 23. Length of the field try by a certain chocolate hamstring Brian Carney.
Shocked Brian Carney.
He got 2.
He did get 2 that night, but late on in the game broke Leeds' hearts.
Yeah.
That was the inspiration for not only 2004, when Leeds won the title for the first time
the
for
whole
30
decade
years.
after.
The golden generation was fuelled to an extent. There was going to be change. Some of the players were going to move on. Some of the kids were going to move, but a lot of them had already made their debut, and they put down a marker for the club was going to move forward with them. They were fuelled by that defeat, and it was very much the catalyst for what could. So I'm not saying that next year Leeds will win the grand final. I'm not saying there's a golden generation on the horizon. What I'm saying is that defeat isn't terminal on Saturday. It's annoying. There's now an element of we were sinned against. The bigger picture says we've actually seen this before, and it can be one of the biggest things that happens over the next year.
Yeah, just on the game while we're still on it, I was really chuffed for Paul Wellens.
Yeah,
I think in all the time I've been a rugby league writer, I'm not sure I've ever even spoken to him, but he's just someone who loves St Helens, loves rugby league. And Chris Joynt once told me a story that when Wello came into the first team, he was always badgering him at training, wanting to talk about games from 5 or 6 years ago. And Joynt was like, "I'm sorry, I can't remember." And Wello he was a fan. He was a guy on the terrace. He was a fan, and the way that Sky cut straight to him celebrating, I just thought that was a lovely moment.
And he deserved that moment of celebration.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think that he's 80 minutes from a grand final.
Yeah.
So the supporters can be critical. They can look at the record against Wigan and Hull KR and Leigh and say we don't play enough rugby against the better teams, and we don't know what our spine is. And I still don't think it was quite right on Saturday. Wellesby to me is too much of an incidental player when he's at 6 rather than an influential one when he's at 1. But Paul Wellens has taken them to 80 minutes from a grand final, and if that isn't credit in the bank with Saints fans, I genuinely don't know what is.
Kevin says that Leeds golden generation, it was like every player was a leader, which was massive.
Yes.
In all these congratulations, and Kevin's mentioned the Warrington Academy because I think he's joined us late, and we praised them earlier, and Halifax winning all the wheelchair stuff, and Featherstone winning the women's championship. I didn't mention Leeds winning the PDRL league leadership, which I didn't know was a thing until I saw
and
a
apparently
tweet
the
yesterday.
finals next week in
In
Blackpool.
Blackpool, yeah. So
But
I don't have to wait for the next. We're the champions.
Who do they play?
I don't know. We're the champions,
How does it
Wakefield.
work?
So
Well, maybe not after next week.
well, no.
I thought as rugby league goes that Leeds.
Well, how good was the game as a whole? Was it a great game?
No.
Or was it, no, it's just like the Wide to West game. It's just going to be remembered
But
for the.
very few playoff games are great
yeah,
games.
just-
But it will never be remembered for anything other than the last 28
Which is fine.
seconds.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that
Which is
because
absolutely
that
fine.
showed rugby league. I mean, the one thing we haven't talked about yet is there was a very similar game in terms of comeback in the NRL.
Not Toulouse and Bradford.
No, there wasn't. There was Bradford as well.
But no one's seen it because their stream was worse than ours last week. So apologies for that.
Anybody who watched Penrith and Brisbane,
You,
absolutely.
are you going to have to get up very early on Sunday? You've got 2 grand finals to watch for.
Well, if you
Then have a nap and then watch the women's
you have
later.
to. That was astonishing. Again, if you're talking purely standard, the standard of Brisbane and Penrith was off the scale, and the ability again of Brisbane to hang in a game that everybody had said at half time they've lost. This Penrith team doesn't give away 14-point advantages. To find a way to win, and again the coolness of Adam Reynolds to kick the winning sideline conversion. The Brisbane pack that suddenly decided, particularly Payne Haas, who decided he was virtually going to take on Penrith single-handedly, and did. Penrith were great in that game. I don't think there's anything they'll look at in review and go, "Oh, I got that a bit wrong." I mean, Brian Toto was just outstanding. Nathan Cleary ran the show, but Brisbane found a way. The standard of that game has enticed me to say I can't wait to see the Ashes because I want to see these guys close up. Brilliant.
What a run they've had, that 4 in a row, because until then no team had ever won 2 in a row in the NRL era.
Yeah.
Which obviously started in 1998, and you just wondered if it would ever happen, and then they win 4 in a row. And of course that final against Brisbane was probably the best of those. What a game that was.
And they were doing it from 7th this time, which again they'd not done before. There'd no week off.
That's the big difference between their playoffs and our playoffs, that you can finish 7th. I remember Canterbury getting to the final once from 9th, and I'm asking you 10 minutes ago if 6 has ever beaten 3rd. Even you think it has, but fair enough. But the fact that I asked the question, ours is by comparison, just a bit too predictable, aren't they?
I do think that that again was another illustration. Like the Leeds Saints ending would have gone over to the Southern Hemisphere. And people would have gone, wow.
Yeah. No, it did. It went on. It was on the social
Then
media.
if you get the chance to watch the highlights, even of Penrith and Brisbane, if you didn't see the game,
and this is where I
worth
said it on the programme before. The NRL need to do a deal with the BBC where their highlights get put on their website. And I know it's a bit difficult with the Australian sport because it's full of bloody adverts and sponsorship and everything. You know, the NBA, the Major League Baseball have a live game on the BBC every week. It's sitting on the red button. People don't know it's there, but it's there. The NRL need to sell their product, and when I say sell, give it away, because you might sell some more shirts, or people might buy
or
tickets.
Ashes tickets.
Yeah. This is a bit before my time, but were Winfield Cup Grand Finals on Channel 4 once?
Yes.
Roughly, sort of late 80s?
So were Test matches once. Was it the 84 series was on ITV?
I was 7, I don't remember.
I think it was.
Right.
Channel 4 were at their formation was very much Italian football.
Oh, I remember the Italian football. That was a bit later though.
Sumo, kabaddi.
Yeah, and
British basketball.
NRL. Yeah.
Kabaddi.
Right.
But we should pay tribute to Toulouse as well. I sadly haven't even seen the highlights because I don't know where they are. But 16-0 down to Bradford at half time.
They're like the French Brisbane.
That's some result. And what a game Sunday.
York,
I've now got a decision to make. Do I go and watch York Toulouse or the Women's Grand Final?
York to lose. York on their stupidly long winning streak.
20 games. Mark Applegarth, congratulations.
Oh yeah, so,
Coach of the Year.
Yeah, so that's the thing I was going to mention and I forgot until you've mentioned it now. Again, so I don't know enough about the championship to say whether all the players or the awards should be from one club. What I do know is why are some awards announced and some have a shortlist and the shortlists aren't all the same numbers and
I don't know.
Why was Dennis Betts announced as Coach of the Year?
Presumably,
I thought that was a bit odd.
Presumably to shorten the ceremony.
Which
the nominees
which
are.
isn't,
Oh no,
it's not televised. You know, the great and the good.
So
of that,
is it not 3 on every shortlist?
No,
no.
Some don't have shortlists.
Because I asked why the women's had gone down from 6 to 3. Because I'd prefer 6, and then at least you avoid having them all from the same club. Where you would imagine there wouldn't have been 6 Wigan players on it. But the answer I got was that it just standardises it across. So that's
Maybe they've just decided.
Which is the one that there's one which has 4 young players of the year and one which has 3. Is it the men's Super League? Whatever.
Right.
It's not standard.
Women's is 3.
And there isn't a women's dream team, but there is a
So
wheelchair dream team.
So there was no shortlist then for the women's. It was just announced that Dennis had won it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you know,
was
makes sense, but
yeah, because I was trying to work out who would be on it because it was hard to.
The Championship Young Player of the Year is interesting.
with the from Leeds.
Well, but he's only played 14 games on loan.
Leeds. It's a stop for Leeds.
No, Jack Smith's a talent who's been released by Leeds.
Yeah. But
So somebody needs to pick him up. But how? What does it say about the competition? If the Young Player of the Year is someone who's on loan from a Super League team and has only played half the season,
That's not good, that is it.
surely there's a young kid who's been playing for York or Batley or.
Is there a Championship dream team?
No.
There should be a Women's Super League one. If they have a wheelchair dream team, which they have, although my understanding, that's dominated by 2 teams, isn't it? The 2 teams which are in the grand final and Nathan Collins, aren't they? So if the women's dream team isn't happening because it would have been full of Wigan players, it's not the same argument, really.
Yeah, they deserve it.
It's interesting how the men's dream team graphic, they were all in their club kits, and the wheelchair when they were all in their England kits.
Was
Just
there a
an odd
photo of the men's dream team?
Taken, I don't think
Altogether.
there was there? Because they weren't
Not
all on
seen
stage
it
at the
anywhere.
same time. Because
But that's
Jenna brought
weird.
them up and then
That's
took them down.
weird because historically,
Yeah, there's usually a picture of them somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping that's a dream team shirt behind us from the Rothmans days, but not had that confirmed yet. Who's going to win the men's semi-finals this week then? Is it going to be a Wigan Hull KR grand final again? We all go, oh?
Well, I'd say it probably will be. I think we tend to get excited, don't we, that surprises can happen, but they don't often in the men's playoffs. I would imagine Wigan v Hull KR.
I suspect Hull KR will win. And again, that's not to write off Saints, because never write off the
You can't write off the Saints. Yeah. As Eddie Hemmings stole from Chris Joint, can't write off the Saints. Yeah.
But they looked to me when we were doing interviews after the game that they were as shocked as anyone that their season didn't end. And I think that
they're all ready to go out on the pop tonight, and now they've got to go play a game.
They were thinking, what am I going to wear Mad Monday?
Yeah.
And the next thing is, I suspect it may be a game too far for this St Helens team, who have done really well from where, you know, middle of the season they were being chastised. They're 80 minutes from Wembley. I don't think they've got quite enough left energy wise, not skill and talent wise, because we saw that on Saturday. I think Hull KR desperately more than any other team needed a week off, and there's still this debate about is it an advantage or a disadvantage. I think for Hull KR and the way they played the last 4 weeks of the season, it's an advantage. They needed to rest some senior players, and they'll come back stronger. So I can make a case for yes, it'll be Hull KR. I'm genuinely not sure about Wigan and Leigh.
No.
I think the conventional wisdom would be Wigan are in great form. Wigan have got everybody fit. Wigan are playing at home. 20,000 people.
Wigan.
It's Wigan's trophy to lose. They've lost the others this year. They've got every motivation. There's just something about this Leigh team about they don't care. They don't care about reputation. They don't care about who they're playing. They've got an innate belief in what they do, and they've got some players who can do some. You know, everybody will talk about, Bevan French can change it. Lachlan Lamb can change a game.
I think it was.
I don't think it's clear cut.
Yeah, I think it was Hull KR v Leigh. You might be tempted to think that Leigh could win that, but I just think Wigan. It's nothing against Leigh, but Wigan are just so good, and they just seem to be coming into form at the right time. That
if there's going to be a shock,
it'll be there.
It could. Be. It could be there.
Yeah.
I don't want to compare Leigh to Castleford in 2017 because that was a one and done, and was. I always thought it was a one and done, but this Leigh team eventually will break up.
Oh yeah.
So it's they, unless they spend lots of money all the time, they're not going to be the next Wigan who are going to win 2 or 3 grand finals in a row.
But I think where you look at
they've got a chance here.
Winning a Challenge Cup, getting to the playoffs, highest ever league finish, with different players. They have to go to Wigan and win in a semi-final, when in the last month Wigan have been the most consistent and almost impregnable team. That is a task that you would think will be beyond them. But I thought that on the opening day of the season.
And Salford went there in a semi, didn't they?
I just thought, week 1, it's all about Michael Buffer, it's all about going to Vegas.
Everything seems like such a long time ago.
It's 20,000 people. No, it was 25, wasn't it? It was the biggest first round. And it's all set up for Wigan. Nobody's talking about Leigh.
Yeah.
It's Wigan's night. This is who we are. We've won all 4 trophies last year. We're the defending champions. First time we've been back on the field. Yeah. It's us.
Kevin's after
somebody forgot to tell Leigh.
Kevin's asked us if we know the championship attendances have gone this year. I think half the teams announced them, so it's impossible, Kevin.
Not that.
And he asked who's our man of steel. Well, we said Lachlan Lamb, so we got that wrong, unfortunately.
I can't look beyond him as being the most influential player in the competition this year. And again, there was some correspondence that there's too much emphasis on the flair players, and I think that's right. That Mike McMeekin, for example, to pick a forward who's had a massive influence on his team and his club, he should be in the reckoning for man of steel, because to me, when you hear the words man of steel, I think there has to be a forward representation. It's not about how many tackles you make or whatever. It's like, what influence have you had on your team that's taken them from getting promoted to making the playoffs? And you would say that the guy who epitomises that more than anybody is McMeekin. He should be in the reckoning.
When does Salford get wound up, by the way? Is that soon?
Yeah, it's sometime in October.
Because Kevin just asked what's happening with Salford. Well, they've gone quiet now because they're not playing, are they? So.
And the bridging loan hasn't landed.
Ruby Hunter, she's a forward, so when she wins Woman of Steel, that will...
Eva Hunter.
Eva Hunter, sorry. I keep getting this wrong every time. I don't know why. Eva Hunter.
We love Eva Hunter. We were
she's
championing
amazing,
him, Eva Hunter, from week one.
This is why I'm not an evangelist of the women's game, because I don't even know who the bloody players are. Is that, before we get on to the grand final then, what news do you have? You said you had some news. What news do you have?
Yeah, I might have boasted a bit much. This will be really underwhelming now.
Well, I mean, everything on this programme.
Well, I've heard...
It's getting dark on screen. We need to get the lights back on. It's like, I know. Why don't you go put the light? You go talk. I'll put the light.
Well, I've heard a rumour that Wigan's Australian players could be leaving them. I don't know if that's all of them or just some of them. So they've got 5 Australian players. So not sure what's happening there. So that's an interesting one. I know York.
Why would they be leaving? Because they've been offered a gig in the NRLW.
Well, Remy Wilton came over on a 2-year visa, so she's had her second year. So I don't know how visas work. So I don't know if there's anything in that. But I think that. I don't know. I heard a whisper that just keen to go back to Australia. Maybe a sort of just want to go back home, homesickness thing maybe. And it's obviously it's a short season, so. But I that's a rumour. It's come from a good source though. It's come from someone who's stuff that he's told me before has generally been true. So Lindsay Anfield has left York completely now.
Oh, not even director of rugby.
Yeah, so she stood down as head coach, but she's left completely. Wouldn't that be interesting?
That seems to be because people won't pay attention because they've got other things that are more important to it. That's been going on the jungle drums, so for the want of a better phrase. I know it's not called the jungle anymore, for a few months now, which it doesn't make any sense, but now it all seems to be falling into place.
It does make sense if, again, Castleford are a club like Wakefield and Wigan that are going to start valuing what their women's team can bring as added value. And if you're going to do that, and she still lives in the area, she's still got a lot of contacts in the area, then why wouldn't you invite her back to get a different band back together?
Well, I think York will miss her, and I think she should be. You know, if you're a club wanting to build up your women's game, you can't do much better.
And Leon Price is going there, or is it?
Yeah, no, Leon is going there, but I mean, nothing's been confirmed. I mean, Georgie Dagger has announced her retirement on social media, and nothing's come out from the club. So that's not really a scoop because she put it on her own social media.
Well, it is to me. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think she's leaving York. She might still be. Yeah,
where's she going?
Not sure.
It's the exciting time of the year now because when people talk about the movements in men's super, I don't care. It's still loads of players from the New South Wales Cup I've never heard of, but it's like people have heard of these people and spoke to some of them.
You surprised Kelsey Gentles went to Huddersfield?
I'm delighted that she has.
Because again, that's spreading the talent.
Yeah, and I'm delighted actually because Huddersfield are maybe 3 or 4 players away from really challenging now. I mean, Amelia Brown's an absolute superstar. And so is Molly Eyston, the winger, Maddie Hutchison in the back row. And now they've got Kelsey. Bethan Oates is still as good as ever. They've got probably the best under-19s player in the game, and that's Tegan Sant, the standoff. And they've got a very, very good under-19s team, so I'm guessing there's another sort of 3 or 4 at least of a similar standard. Interesting piece in League Express today with Martin Sadler saying that Ken Davies should put his money into the club rather than build a new stadium, and I'm thinking, yes, just put some money into the women's team because it doesn't need much, just a handful of players, ideally located to get players from the 4 big players, the 4 big clubs that maybe want to leave. But Huddersfield just seems so close to really challenging. So Kelsey isn't just a quality player; she should be the face of the game.
She's massively important in the dressing room, though. If you want to go to the next level, I'll just tell you how to do it.
Kelsey's signing will hopefully just convince a few other players of that sim. And Kelsey's done one of the forwards for this, by the way. Kelsey Gentles.
I like the way you keep bringing it back.
Yeah, it's talent I've got. Yeah. No, I was really chuffed that Kelsey signed for Huddersfield because it's not great that players from the top 4 just keep going to each other. It's not ideal, that. So I think Kelsey going to Huddersfield is big. But the club need to put their hands in their pocket a bit. I mean, again, like Warrington, they'll say that it's not them directly running the club, maybe, but
they need to.
Yeah, they could, if they could just do a little bit more. But what they've got there is impressive, and they've had a very good season. Very nearly beat York, of course, earlier in the season.
Got to pay for. Can I say over the hill prop forwards for the men's team?
You can say what you like.
Georgie Dagger posted this 7 days ago, so yeah, it has been missed by everyone, hasn't it? Grateful for this vault journey and the endless memories made with my besties over the past 5 seasons. Can also say I've lived every minute, ready for the next chapter with my little family. ... So there you go. Gonna miss you, mate, says Rhiannon Marshall, who some people spell her name right on team sheets.
Yes, I didn't know Rhiannon had the second
It's technically Rhiannon.
But don't call it that to her face.
Just back on York though, it just makes me. I understand there's a feeling among the squad that maybe the club have just focused a bit too much on the men's this year, and I understand it because getting the men's team into Super League is huge for them.
Yeah.
But you just wonder whether they've just taken the eye off the
I
ball.
just wonder whether that's
Valkyrie.
a side that is just going to break up. You know, it's achieved everything it has. There's an age element to some of it. They will have some young kids coming, but you know, Leeds have seen that this year. Are York going to be the next?
York are going to be offering this week all their players 2-year contracts, and I think there's a belief that the majority will commit. I think the bigger problem that York have got is they don't really have the quality in the backs. If whoever their best 10 players
James
are.
Stanley be back next year?
Yes, I think so.
There's some quality.
Yeah.
So if you're losing Daggy, you're losing a 1, 6, 7, 9.
How she played 1 and 9 in the same that was just genius from Lindsay, wasn't it, to come up with that role? Because I don't think that's ever been done before.
Also came out with one of the best lines that an awards do.
I wasn't there. What did she say?
She said, "Play fullback and hooker," but Lindsay's invented this position that makes me a
Ray French accidentally said that, didn't he? It's on YouTube. Yeah, very funny.
But that was deliberate.
I think I think York have got too many. Well, not too many. You can't have too many good forwards, but if whoever their 10 best players are, 8 of them are probably.
I thought
forwards.
it was interesting that Zoe Hornby hasn't yet found her feet at York because she needs to be starting.
Yeah,
I think she's good enough to be a regular starter.
Yeah.
But she was coming off the bench and didn't have quite the same.
I think they probably just see her as the ideal impact prop like Vicky Wakefield.
I think she's more than that though.
I think she's a brilliant player, but I agree with you. I just don't think she's quite hit the heights. But she was out of the game for a year,
she will. But I think they've got to start.
I would hope. I hope if she gets back to her best, she'll be playing for England. I think England need genuine props rather than back rows being converted. And I think Zoe's an obvious person.
England who are playing. Oh yeah, we don't know.
No one. They're playing no one.
There is an Origin game.
Yeah.
In Oldham. Which again,
why is there an Origin game?
They've played the two games in Oldham and Hull, where neither have a Super League team. What's the point?
But the season's finished. What is having an Origin game going to prove to even Stuart Barrett? I know he wants to get them together, and
I don't mind them having it. It's just I think it was probably penciled in, and then the France game hasn't happened, but just getting them together, and I don't think they have a long season in the women's game. It's not like the men's where they're just desperate to finish. There's a lot of the women who just want to play more games
at elite level.
Playing at St Helens or Warrington or.
The Origin needs to change though. You need to have independent coaches who pick their own sides. It's a bit of a nonsense that the England coach picks both teams. It doesn't have a proper feel to it, does it? And that's what you need.
So on Sunday, apart from me tattooing on my eyelids Eva, because I don't want to get a name wrong just in case I have to speak to her because she'll beat me up. Who's going to win? Wigan or St Helens?
Defer to the man who
upset people.
Has the insight.
Got to upset people.
Well, Shannie's going to be watching this, and I'm going to say Wigan. I think Wigan will win. I think it'll be close. It'll be a lot closer than Wembley, but I think Wigan will probably do it. But there's every chance that Saints could. I think last year I thought Saints would win and they didn't. There's always a shock in the women's play or semi-finals or final, and there hasn't been yet, so maybe there will be. I just think that in that game at the end of the season to decide who won the minor premiership, I thought Saints were very, very good for a lot of that game, but you just always felt that Rowan Fubister could do something, and I just think that they're going to have to be really off the boil. Saints.
There's going to be pressure on them though.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
At home, the biggest crowd for a women's game.
Chris Radlinski on the touchline.
In a strange way, I think home advantage didn't help St Helens last year.
So
maybe there'll be that. But I think if I had to, I'd probably go Saints. I'd probably go Wigan.
If Shannie's in the room.
Yeah.
And then Wigan.
No, I think I probably would. I think I heard you say last week that Saints maybe need to make a couple of changes. I think one of them that I would do is I think I'd probably start Vicky Whitfield. Because I think on paper, I think Saints might fancy themselves in the front row. And I think keeping Vicky on the bench. She's had a brilliant season, by the way, and I'd have had her on the Women of Steel shortlist. And I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, it would have been much closer than people think it would be if Vicky was on it. Cause
I just think Jodie's got to play 13.
Yeah, I agree with that. Zoe Harris back at 6, but I think starting Vicky, I think that's potentially the wild card that they could have that could really take Wigan by surprise. But she hasn't started all season, so I'm guessing they won't do that. I think Naomi Williams has had a very good season, very underrated player, so no issue with her starting. But I just think, if they got Vicky out there right from the start and she's at her best, that then gives them a great chance. But I think but the 2 games they've been brilliant, haven't they? The 2 WSL games, they've been absolutely brilliant games.
Too many people are fixated on Wembley. That's the problem. I
think Saints were really caught by surprise. I'm guessing that Saints were maybe just in denial as to how good Wigan were at that point. And I think that had been the same with Leeds and York as well. And they just knocked them off one at a time by 40 points, didn't they? And I just thought Saints probably thought that wouldn't happen to them. But I'm so impressed with the way that Saints have regrouped after Wembley. I didn't think they'd be within 10 minutes of winning the minor premiership. I just thought Wigan would go to canter for the rest of the season. But no, I'd say Wigan, but by maybe a small margin. But I can't wait for it. What a game it'll be.
Wigan. I wonder what the weather will be like on Sunday.
It's grand final. It'll have to be raining.
Remember last year it started raining at half time. And I think York would have been absolutely delighted with that. Yeah. I think it suits the underdogs, that, doesn't it? Levels it up a bit. But that's the interesting thing with summer rugby. Our grand finals take place in cold, dark night times.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the January friendlies already.
Boxing Day. I know this is a bizarre thing to mention, but if Brisbane win both grand finals on Sunday morning, I would hope Wigan would win both grand finals here, because that would give you the opportunity. Whether it should happen or not is a different matter, but knowing how progressive Wigan like to claim to be, and of course they are, double World Club Challenge, why not? I know the seasons don't match, but it's not England playing Australia in Vegas, and Dennis Betts played in that famous game in Brisbane in 1994.
Scored the first try,
Why not?
Yeah,
nothing. Wigan would have nothing to lose if they
copyright that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Your idea.
Well, on Sunday,
no, Shannie calls for it in here. World Club challenges, please, in the women's game.
Yeah, we might get one.
Yeah.
Double header.
Well, if everything goes to plan for that on Sunday, that's the first thing I'll ask Dennis Betts.
Dennis was asked in a press conference that I was on. There was a Zoom call, and whether Las Vegas should have gone ahead, and he was like, "Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You have to play these games too." And so his attitude will be to play
benchmark.
100%.
And then the Aussie players could go back after with the opposition team.
Save on things. I think that's we covered everything. I think we covered everything. Where do we get the book? Where's it available? What's it?
Well, it's thank you very much. It's going to be on sale it should be straight away now at the St Helens Club Shop and online. They'll be selling it online. Shannie's got an eBay page for people who have got requests, signatures and dedications.
I know there's an independent bookshop in Leeds.
There is, Philip Howard Books in Roundhay. There's a bookshop in St Helens as well, St Helens Bookstop. And
brilliant.
We need, the first batch of books is almost sold out because Shannie did a couple of book signings at the weekend and they sold very well. So I've got another consignment.
Mind you, to be honest, if she asked me to buy it, I would.
Yes.
I'm not frightened of her, but if she says...
Is this where we've been going wrong all this time?
This is my book and you're going to buy it. I go, yes please, I have two pictures
we need Rugby League props to sell books. So when I get another batch of books, I'll get a page on womensrl.com as well where people can buy it. So It's had a great start, it really has.
It's got words and pictures and everything.
Yeah.
Some of them bios, and surprisingly for me, I actually wrote it rather than my column in the magazine, which doesn't get written by me.
I've done book signings with very few people turning up, but there were queues of people at Thatto Heath on Saturday, and it was great to see.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
Well, if the story is as good as you sold it, we're getting towards what might be termed the C word. Put it on your list for Santa.
Not that one, the other one.
Yeah, we're doing signings as well at the Saints Club store, and
and in Canada.
So, hopefully, she's going to take some.
Good.
I'm going to have to send it to my Canadian friends, aren't they? The Canadian soups. Richard, thank you for coming in.
No problem, I've enjoyed it.
we'll be back next week, won't we, to discuss the women's grand final and what will be the men's final the week after, and Brisbane winning the two things in Australia, because you'll be wearing your Brisbane top and whatever. And,
I'm a fan of the Broncos.
But
it's not going to be Leeds and Brisbane in a World Club Challenge, unfortunately for me.
No. Well, there's always next year. That's the thing we keep having to remind everyone. It comes around again. I know your club might not, but one day, everything's cyclical. It's
nothing we ain't seen.
No. So we'll be back next week. Thanks for watching. At least the internet works, and the camera and the lighting. Phil's podcast with proper lights and everything. Phil's lamp. This is the professional standard. I will learn to look at this camera. The professional standard that you expect from us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Buy the book, and we'll see you next week for the pre-grand final.